So I want to give a deal breakdown of a property we just bought in Madison, Alabama. This was a very interesting deal. This was originally set up to be a hybrid deal, and it took some turns. It was a very interesting one, so I want to break down exactly what happened here. So this was a auction property. This property was facing a foreclosure, which we got stopped. And so I'll walk through the numbers for you and show you exactly how we laid out the deal, and then what changed along the way and how we ended up ultimately structuring the deal and what it's going to look like for us. So this deal, we're taking over the existing mortgage subject to, it's a $189,000 balance with a 2% interest rate. We had a $15,000 assignment to a wholesaler that brought the deal to us. We're gonna have about $5,000 in closing costs. And the lien that we had to pay off in order to stop the foreclosure was $70,000. The sellers had some equity in this house, and we had agreed to seller finance a portion of their equity for them. We were giving them a total of $70,000 worth of equity, and we were going to do $20,000 cash at closing, and we were going to do $50,000 seller financing, 0% interest with a 5-year balloon. So that basically means at the end of 5 years, we have to pay off the balance of whatever's left on the $50,000. So this means we were going to need a total amount of cash to close on the property. When you add all those things together, was going to be $110,000. So we have a private money lender who's bringing $110,000 to the table. It's going to get us into the property. We're then taking over the Subto, as I mentioned, $189,000 plus the $50,000 of seller financing. That puts us at a cost basis on this property of $349,000. The property's got an ARV, or an after repair value, of about $445,000 in the current market. So up to this point, we're good. Like we knew we have our numbers. Unfortunately, because there was a tenant in the property, and it was a non-compliant tenant. They were not paying on time. They were being difficult, and they were also not allowing us to go in and inspect the property. We were able to see the outside. We're not able to go inside and see it. The tenants had sent some pictures, but later found out they were very specific pictures. They made sure they didn't, take pictures of the damaged parts of the house. So I was able to go in last week, about, I guess it was 4 days before we were expected to close. I went into the property and found a lot of damage. The property was not in the condition the tenants led us to believe it was, and not in the condition the owners told me it was in. The rehab was going to be far more extensive than we expected. We thought it was going to be very, very light rehab, maybe change the carpets, maybe clean the carpets, and throw some paint on the walls, and we were going to be good to go. It's a nice house in a very nice neighborhood, so we didn't think it was going to require much. Unfortunately, we got in the house, and we were looking at a rehab number of at least $50,000. That would bring our total costs to complete the project. Once we pay commission on the back end and closing costs, going to bring our total cost to around $429,000 on an after repair value of only $445,000. That's only a potential profit of $16,000, and that's not wide enough margin for any investor to want to take that on. It's not a wide enough margin for me to feel comfortable that I can protect my private money lender. So we had to restructure this deal. And we had the conversation with the sellers, and as you can expect, it did not, they were not exactly happy about having to restructure the deal, especially considering it was, by the time we had the conversation, it was 3 days before closing. it was Tuesday, closing was on Friday. So we had the conversation that there's nothing we could do about it. We could either walk away or we can restructure the deal. And there's only a couple parts of this deal that are negotiable at all, right? We have some very fixed costs. We know the existing mortgage balance is a fixed cost. We know, well, I've already agreed to my assignment of $15,000, and closing costs, no matter what, are going to be roughly $5,000 on this deal. We cannot renegotiate the $70,000 lien. That was already negotiated down from about $130,000. That only leaves the amount of equity going to the sellers as something that is negotiable. So rather than giving $20,000 cash to the seller and financing $50,000 for a total of $70,000, what we ended up doing is increasing cash to seller from $20,000 up to $30,000, which took our cash to close and actually increased that. So now our private money lender, rather than bringing $110,000 to close the deal, will be requiring the private money lender to bring $120,000. Then the seller finance portion, which was $50,000 at 0% interest, we took that $50,000 and made it zero. We eliminated the seller finance portion completely. So basically, of the $50,000 that was seller finance, we took $10,000 of it, put it as cash in their pocket, and eliminated the other $40,000. So we've just put a $40,000 buffer into this project, bringing our cost basis down to $309,000. And now this deal makes a lot more sense on paper. Okay, but that wasn't it, because the seller, as you can imagine, they weren't super excited about agreeing to drop their equity from $70,000 down to $30,000. They wanted another $10,000 in there, and I wasn't willing to give them an additional $10,000 guaranteed. It would have put my private money lender in more jeopardy than I wanted, than I was comfortable. From a liability standpoint, $30,000 cash to seller was my absolute top. But I came up with a way to get those sellers some extra cash, possibly. What I did was, I told the sellers they would receive an additional $10,000 if we profit over $20,000. So they're sharing in our profits while not adding to our liability going into this deal. And they ended up accepting that. So, if we make $21,000 on the deal, they'll get $10,000 when we sell the house. So it's a win for everybody, and it's going to be a fun little project. We're going to get on the market as fast as we can, and we probably won't do a full rehab on it. We're just going to do some cosmetic things, fix some of the damage, and get it on the market as fast as possible, and get our private money lenders money back to him, hopefully within 2 to 3 months.